Guess who sorted out their technology?
Yay!
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I'm just making sure that we are live, which I think we are. Let me take a look for sure. And I apologize for the delays.
I know,
Yes, we
here.
are live. Fantastic.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
we are live, and now I'm going to do some sharing. And anybody who joins us
No, just
can
so you can
share
beep it,
as well.
so you know.
Awesome. So feel free to share. We got our audio problems sorted out. We got Doris
Yes.
on camera. So we're going to have a great
I'm so
show.
sorry about
Do you
that,
hear me
guys.
both?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You shouldn't be able to hear her. That'd be kind of crazy if you could. But anyway, not a problem. Let us begin the show. So I got my special guest, Doris Morgado, and this is the Indie Lounge. Yes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carlos Phoenix with the Indie Lounge. Today we have a great show, and I have a special guest. Her name is Doris Morgado. Now, Doris and I met about 3 or 4 years ago. She was working on a film. I was invited to the red carpet, and I found this amazing actress, very petite, beautiful, and extremely talented with the clips that I was able to see in the film that I was able to watch. And I was like, wow, this girl has like all the different elements that I think things like Hollywood is looking for, and she, I guess, feels that same way, and a lot of people who are backing her up feels the same way. She gets a lot of support from her family and that type of stuff. I've been watching all her interviews since she's been on Univision and a bunch of other networks. We're going to go over all that because what we're going to do today is do a catch-up interview and find out what was she doing and what was working, what wasn't working, how the industry is accepting her being a Latina, and all those type of things. So I'm going to bring her on now. I'm going to erase her audio and put her on camera. Thank you so much, Doris. Give me one moment and you will be live.
Yes.
Hello, Doris. How are you?
Hi. Great. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. So thank you so much for joining. This took like a month or so just to put together, which is great that we finally
Yes.
got to be on camera. And so I want to appreciate you for coming on.
Of
I know you have
course.
all these other bigger networks covering you and stuff like that. So I'm very humbled by the fact
What
that
better
you're.
way than to come back to like where I got my first interview?
Was
So
that really your first interview? No.
yeah, that was like the first like red carpet that I got to go to, and it was for the movie premiere, and I was the lead in that, or one of the leads in the film. So you were one of I think you might have been the first one because you came in like right before we started everything.
Wow. I never knew that.
Yeah,
So now
yeah.
I feel so privileged to have you again on the show. So thank you once again. So
Of
you've been working on
course.
some great roles. Now, granted, we have all the big superstars taking the lead roles, but you've been next to a lot of great superstars. So
Yes.
want to introduce some of those superstars you're with?
Yeah, so I've gotten a chance to work with Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg, and Edward James Olmos was on the movie Two Guns. Also with Dwayne Johnson and Snitch, and um, most recently I was in the movie Logan. So that was one of like my dreams come true because I grew up being a Marvel's fan, and I got to work with James Mangold. So that was also another awesome thing to have such a great director, uh, you know, leading me and getting me to go to that next level for these scenes. So it was a real joy.
Now, I think you'd be fantastic for a Marvel movie.
Thank
I
you.
just watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and they got Gamora, who's this green woman. What color do you
Yeah,
think you'd want to be?
I would say red. I know, like it's like such a touchy thing because red is normally associated with like either the devil or someone like
Ah,
mean,
okay.
but like also for me, red also represents like passion and strength, which I feel that I have a lot of it. That passion can sometimes turn into maybe like anger if I'm not achieving what I want. But for the most part, I would say the red is more of like the passion, drive, strength. So I think yeah, a red, but definitely
Okay,
not red eyes because that would be evil.
that makes sense. So like black
Yeah.
eyes.
No, that still seems evil. Like maybe like blue. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to get back to you on that because the eyes will make or break the character. It would either be like, yeah, she's evil and she's gonna kill everyone, or oh, she's just red because she happens to be red.
Okay, fair enough. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I know you were in Logan.
Yes.
So you played a part where you were helping the kids get rescued. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my role was Maria, and I was one of the nurses that was actually in the in like the footage, the found footage where they were doing all these experiments on the kids, and one of them being X-23, and they're basically doing what they did to Logan when they captured him, was just doing all these testing and creating these superheroes basically, and using them as weapons. Ultimately, like that was the goal of the government, and they had all the kids in this secret place where no one knew who they were or where they were, and our job was to basically keep them alive. But of course, they were children, so we kind of became attached to them.
Right. Now, when they went to you about this part, is that the description they gave you, or was it something that changed during the course of filming?
No, that was pretty much the description. It was a young mom who was working at this facility, and throughout, once I end up helping rescue the kids, I end up getting captured, and they threatened to kill my baby son if I don't tell them where the kids that I helped escaped are.
Okay. Now, I did watch you on Chicago MD. I follow you. Now, I'm not a creeper, so don't get me wrong, but I do, and I try to push a lot of the content that you push on social media so that people know since the last interview how you've been progressing. So we met. You were doing an independent film, and the first red carpet, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're doing some right things. So now, if we have people who are watching online who are looking to get into acting, who are looking to get into filmmaking, or what would be your first initial suggestions of just getting in?
I always tell people my first suggestion is to find a good acting school or a community theater around your area, because I find that acting is very similar to sports, in the sense that if you're not practicing, if you're not immersed in the art, then you're never going to be able to challenge and push yourself to get better than what you were. And being in a great acting school with a great acting community, I think it's super key. It's one of the things that I always carry with me. My first acting coach, which was in Atlanta, Michael Cole, and he told me in one of the classes, he said, with acting, if you're not on set filming, you should be in acting class working, because it's a muscle and you always want to get better. And that always stuck with me. And so I use that all the time. I mean, I got back from Chicago, being there for 2 weeks filming, and 2 days after I was back in acting class. So I would say that's my main thing. One, you're going to find a great community of actors who have the same passion for you, and hopefully have the same drive that you have. And then on top of that, you're also going to be pushing yourself and getting better. And from that community, then you start learning all these other stuff that are important. One is like headshot photographers and agents and casting workshops, just all these little things that you would never find out on your own, or it would take you a long time to find out on your own if you're, sitting in a bubble in your house waiting for stuff to come your way.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what led
Okay.
you, what got you to creep into acting.
Well, I was born in Venezuela. My family's Cuban, and when they came, when my mom came from Venezuela with with my older brother and myself, um, I always I would always watch a lot of movies and a lot of TV, and I loved it. I loved seeing all these different characters, and I always felt like I I would be able to do that. Um, Now, when I got into middle school, I did take some acting classes, and they were, middle school classes. So it was just more of the kids that were in there were just trying to pass time. And then in college, I went ahead and I did a couple of community theaters. And it wasn't until right after, or like my last year in college, that I told my mom, I was like, you know what? I can't, sorry about that. I can't become a teacher. That was what I was studying to be. It was
Right.
a degree in teaching. And I was like, I can't. I have to become an actress. Like, this is what I love. And she looked at me and was like, listen, I didn't come to this country and go through so much trouble for you to struggle. You're going to get your degree in elementary education, and then afterwards you can do whatever you want, but I want you to have a degree to fall back on. So I ended up getting my bachelor's in elementary education. But as soon as I graduated, I literally started looking for auditions and started looking for acting classes. My first thing was I got into an acting class. Um, and I feel like that passion of acting was always there. Um, like anything and everything that I could do while I was growing up that had to do with acting, I would try to get myself involved in it, whether it was a school play or different things like that. Unfortunately, I would say my school didn't have a good drama department, so there weren't like these elaborate plays that would come up.
Right.
But just being on stage was something that I absolutely loved, and I always felt at home, even though obviously I was nervous, but I felt like this was my purpose. Like, this is why I'm here to do this. So it was definitely very good. And I think I also had a lot of practice. I have two older brothers who always used to mess with me. So I could cry at a drop of a dime and get them in trouble. So I hope they never see this, because then they're going to tell my mom and be like,
That's funny.
see, I told you all those times she was lying. But yeah, they did help me conjure up those tears very, very freely and easily, from all their messing around with me.
Now, okay. So I understand you, let me see. You had used to dress up, according to one of the stories that I remember you telling in one of your previous interviews, and act out in front of your family. Is that correct, or am I misreading that
Yeah,
story?
yeah, yeah. Wow, you have a very good memory. Um, yeah, so Saturdays was the days that we had to clean the house. It was like mandatory, like all the kids. My mom was like, I want this house spick and span. And one of the many chores that I had was taking the sheets out of off the bed and taking them to the laundry. And I would always like put on those sheets, and it's just like walk around, and I would play out these roles that I was like a princess whose city was overrun by like these evil people, and they were able to get me to escape, but I had to hide my true identity. And so I would like run around the house with the sheets on until my mom was like, Mijita, didn't I tell you to go wash that stuff? Put it in the washer. But those were always like my stories of like just finding anything and everything to be able to recreate like whatever story was in my mind. And it just brought me so much joy. Like, we didn't have a lot growing up, so there wasn't like we had a house full of toys and video games and all this kind of stuff. So my imagination was my outlet and my playground.
Now, okay, so you go from independent films. What was a stepping stone that got you into the pro level stuff?
Honestly, I have to say it was all the preparation that I went to. I mean, a lot of people will go in and look at my IMDb and say, something similar to that, like, oh wow, you went from this one film and all of a sudden you jumped to professional films.
It's like
But what
bam.
they don't, yeah, and it's like, oh, she came out of nowhere, and that's usually the story, but people don't see like all the other independent films that I worked on for free. I think I was up to like 20 or 30 films, and that's not even obviously like the auditions that I had that I did not book or that the project never got completed because the funding never came through. So I think
Yeah, a lot of people
being in
don't
that
know about that
constant,
stuff. That's like people look at
yeah,
Hollywood actors and think, oh, they just walked right into it, or they got discovered somewhere. They don't
right,
realize that
right,
you did 20 films for free. And the same
yeah,
thing is the guys behind the scenes. Like I worked in film, and I don't know if you knew that or not. I used to work in art
no,
direction and building sets and that type of stuff. And I was very fortunate because one, I got paid from day one. I started with storyboards and then got into building sets. And then I became an art director over 20 years. And so I've done music videos and all that type of stuff. But I know a lot of people in the career that I've had, a lot of them were like PAs who, didn't get paid for 2 years. And they
yep,
just were like trying to learn the business.
yeah,
So,
and
you
and
struggled in terms of getting your parts.
yeah, and I think that's a great thing to say was trying to learn the ropes. Um, my first SAG film was Preacher's Daughter, which my scenes ended up not making it because they rewrote a lot of stuff. But I remember just that one audition and having that give me my SAG eligibility was huge for me. But it was, a lot of heartache and a lot of tears and everything before all that came through, and a lot of frustration of like, man, when is it going to be my time? But I think God does everything in its moment. Because I felt that I was ready, but now that I'm where I'm at right now, I realized, you know what? I was not as ready as I thought I was back then with some of the stuff that I have now. Like it would have never felt like a blessing. It would have felt more like a burden. Um, but I'm grateful for all of those other independent films that I did because it did show me the ropes. It did teach me how to be on set, what to expect, how to be professional, and that and it also allowed me to feel comfortable in an audition room. People laugh a lot because I tell them like, oh well, I enjoy auditioning, but it's because I hated auditioning and I had to go through so many of these auditions for independent films that I got used to being in the room. So now when I went into these bigger rooms, in my mind, it's just like another audition. Obviously, yes, there's a lot more at stake, but I know that I'm prepared and I know that I can do it. And walking into that room is not like I haven't done it. Like I've been doing it for so long now that it's a comfortable feeling to walk in there because I get to play again. I get to do what I love.
Once you start getting used to just stepping into a room, I mean, you always have the fear factor, but because you never know what to expect sometimes, but because it's so familiar, or am I
Right,
wrong?
yeah. It's just yeah, that excitement never goes away. I mean, I ran track and field since I was in middle school, and we would have practice pretty much 300 days out of the year, and we would practice twice a day. So there was really no time off except a little bit around like Christmas time and the weekends, and there wasn't a competition that I wouldn't go to and get on the line
Mm.
and the referee saying ready or take your mark, get set, that my heart wasn't pounding out of my chest. And here I was doing this for so many years, going to so many practices, running the same event every year, every event, every race, and I still got nervous. So I don't think the nervousness leaves as much as it turns more into excitement. You're always obviously, yes, that part of like I'm walking into something that I don't know, but I think if you prepare enough with the material and you really live within it, you get to a point where you stop focusing on what's in the room and you start focusing on what your character is going through. And from there, I think those nerves subside, or you use them. If that's what if your character is going through something that needs to be nervous, then you just use that nervousness within your character, and it kind of blends in together to the point where you walk out and you're just like, wow, I was so immersed in what I was trying to accomplish um, with my character that I didn't even realize that my nerves went away and I was
Right.
just
Well, that's
focused on
great.
this reader. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. Guys, those who are watching, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to take a couple of questions that you
Yes.
guys are asking because this is live. And the whole point of being live is not only being authentic, but also interacting and talking to our audience. So I am first going to have everybody share. Please share this video. It is live. The more people that come, the more questions, the more interesting and the more education we get out of Doris, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to squeeze her like an orange and get as much juice as possible. So that's one thing we're trying to do. Second, I want to show some clips. Now, I've been doing that as you've been talking, and you've noticed that. But I do want to be able to first answer a couple of questions, and then I want to show your comedy stuff because you're not just this serious dramatic actress, which I think you do great. But we want to show some of the funny stuff that you do. So
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm being transparent here, and now I know Anna, who is a fan of mine, a longtime fan of mine, and I'm glad that she joined. So thank you very much, Anna. So one of the things is she's asking is how do you train? She read from my material because I've been sharing about you for the past week to let people know that we're doing this interview. Now I know you do fitness. I know you do a lot of working out. You got muscles. You will embarrass me if I'm next to you, but you do some heavy working out. So now, are you doing? I know you do modeling. Are you doing any kind of fitness modeling?
I haven't started doing the fitness modeling yet, just because this pilot season, thank God, it was very busy for me. And to go into the fitness modeling is definitely a next step, as far as like the training goes. Right now, my training is more for just staying fit, staying active. It's something that keeps my mind feeling extremely relaxed when I actually get in the gym. But I am going to start moving into that. It just takes is a little bit of tweaking on certain things that mostly is what you eat. But I was on set for so many days, and that kind of works, makes it a little bit harder. It's not impossible, but it just makes it a little bit harder when you're not in your hometown and you're living off of a hotel, like as far as like your food and things like that, and how often to eat when you're on set. So that's definitely something that's going to come in the future. I just need to be more conscious about, or be more prepared as far as like my meal prepping and things like that when I'm working on set to be able to help with that.
Now, okay, so you've worked with The Rock and you've worked with Logan. Now, did you meet Wolverine? I just stick
I
with
didn't
his comic
get,
name.
yeah, I didn't get to meet Wolverine actually, because all of my scenes were with Richard, and Daphne, so I got to work with them, but unfortunately not with Logan. No.
Okay. The reason I always bring that up is you mentioned that most of it is eating in respect to your fitness. Now,
Yeah.
so what do you find yourself eating? Let's dig into your diet.
So I've actually gotten really good about my diet. I've been it's going to be like a year or so now that I've been eating paleo slash Whole 30. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's just basically eating very clean. So you don't eat any processed food. You don't eat any gluten, any dairy, any beans or nuts. So it's just protein and vegetables. But I love to cook. I love being in the kitchen, and I love following recipes. I'm not one of those cooks that can see something and be like, I'm going to make up a new recipe. No, I need to have the recipe, and I follow it to the T. But I'm really good at following it. So I always look for those kind of stuff. And at first it was hard because I grew up, literally my breakfast was coffee with milk and sugar, bread
so you
with
were Latina.
butter. Yes. So, and then pastelitos, if we had some pastelitos. So that was my breakfast growing up. So now I've changed it, and I thought it was going to be harder than what it was. But I've definitely seen a change in not only my body, but also my skin, my energy. I don't get sick as often. So it's just all these different things that I find that has helped me out a lot with changing my diet. So it's just, to answer your question, it's just any type of protein, and then vegetables and salad and things like that.
So we just saw a couple of scenes where you're using your running skills as a police officer. That's awesome.
And I love that. So when I want to tell you this really quick, so that was from Slice.
Right.
And that was the first scene that I had to do for that movie. So they have me all dressed up in the cop, and they have the guy who's the stunt double for the young lady that I accidentally kill in the movie.
Right.
And they had him run. So they had everything set up, and they said, all right, when we say action, you're going to take off running, and Doris, you're going to run after him. Well, I don't think anyone on set knew that I used to run track.
Oh,
and
nice.
On top of that, I ran the 100 and the 200. So I had to be fast, like at the get-go. So they said action, and I let him get to wherever he had to get to for me to start running for the camera to capture me. I don't know. I honestly, I think he didn't know, but I ended up catching him.
Well, the scene looks fantastic.
They had a cut, and they're like, you need to run faster. And he was just like, well, she ran too fast. And they're like, you're a dude. She shouldn't catch you. So you run faster. He's like, oh, okay. But it was the funniest thing because I remember running, and I was getting closer to him. But I was like, well, I need to keep the pace that the camera with the car is going. So I was like, well, he just needs to pick it up. And sure enough, I caught him. And I was like, well, scene's over. Caught you. We need to rewrite.
All right, cool. So now let's show some of the comedic stuff. I'm going to play the clip or clips because you're in a few different things. So let's take a look, guys. And then hopefully Facebook will not kick me off because, some of this is network television stuff. So, all right, here goes.
Welcome.
Podrás enjaular mi cuerpo, pero nunca vas a capturar mi corazón.
Al contrario, mi noble estrella del escenario y la pantalla. Me amarás.
Sara, cuando me dijiste por primera vez que teníamos que enamorarnos o morir, pensé en escoger la muerte. Pero te amo.
Y yo a ti, mi pequeña y consentida hermosura.
6, 7, 8, 10, 1, 2, 3. Okay, there you go, crossbody.
All right, so that scene is from Meet the Browns. I'm going to just cut it just in case Facebook gets a little bit
Sorry.
antsy because they have, even on the tests that I've done,
Este
they've
tipo me
kicked
va a
me off.
destrozar los dedos.
But,
I said, good job.
Is there a problem? Is everything okay?
There's a man outside on the wing.
What?
There's a man outside on the wing.
Okay, sir.
Look, now he's playing basketball.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go call the captain. Excuse me.
Excuse me, miss. Is the man still out on the wing?
Oh, yes, he's barbecuing. Would you like a hamburger?
No, I'll pass.
Okay.
awesome. So my wife is a huge fan of Jane the Virgin, and
Yes.
we were looking at clips yesterday as I was preparing for this, and she's like, "I saw that episode." So now, the funny story that I have, and I'll share some story, is of course, me working in film over the past few years, for about 20 years. I haven't done it in a long time now. I've met celebrities, of course, and sometimes we've gone to dinner and things of that nature. Uh, they don't become too buddy buddy for too long because people change their phone numbers, and they have this thing about and whatever. So, for example, one day you'll be famous and like super famous, and Carlos is like, "What? Who's Carlos? Whatever." Yeah, so and I'm okay. I'm prepared for that emotionally. But there've been times when I've been able to bring, let's say, a celebrity home, and my wife had never experienced that, and when you're telling stories about who you've worked with, they just kind of become stories. Then there's no reality to it. There's no touch and feel.
Right.
So I was friends with Wanye Morris from Boys to Men, and I call my wife and tell her, "Hey, he's coming over for dinner." She's like, "Yeah, okay." So and we're coming from Atlanta, and it's like a 45-minute drive. And what's great is my best part of the story is he serenaded me in the car, and
Oh,
that boy can
wow.
sing. Obviously, he's amazing at a cappella. And so I was all in tears. And so we go into the house, and I checked inside first. I said, "Well, let me make sure she's not, like in kitchenware. I'll let
Yeah.
her give her a chance to change." I go inside, and so because I went in first, she's like, "Yep, I knew it. No celebrity." So I opened the door all the way, and there he is. And she's like, "Oh my God!" And she's probably gonna be mad at me for sharing this story. She's like, "Oh my God, I did not prepare like a really good meal." And he was
Oh,
appreciative regardless, but but that's what happens when you don't believe in the story. So do you ever have a story like that at all?
um, I think it was yeah, for Two Guns. I actually brought my family on set, and I was telling them, I was like, "Oh, I'm shooting my scene today with Denzel Washington," and my mom's a huge fan of his, and they were like, "Oh yeah, okay." And I was like, "No, like seriously, like I'm sitting next to them." So when they flew in when I was still on set, so they got to set, and they brought him in, and they're like, "Oh well, Doris is in Valley in the video village with the director." And what excuse me, when they got there, it was literally the director, Denzel Washington, and myself, and we were just chatting it up because we weren't. I think they were moving something, and they came and they sat next to me, and they just like froze, like they didn't say anything. They were just looking straight forward. I was like, "Why are you acting so weird? You're just staring forward." And they're like, "Denzel Washington is right next to you." I was like, "Yes, I told you I was talking to him." Why is that a surprise to you? Did you think I was lying? Yeah, so that was a very fun time to like get them to be like starstruck and acting all weird.
Now you were recently married, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay. Now
Hmm.
is he involved in the media at all?
No, no, he's not.
Okay. So here you are acting with The Rock, acting with all these handsome men. I'm not saying your husband isn't handsome, but he's got some competition. Does he have any issues with this?
Oh no, not at all.
Awesome.
Not at all. Yeah.
Does he get to go around to his friends and brag like, "Yeah, my babe is with
Oh,
Logan"?
of course.
That's cool. And you're gonna have plenty of stories when you have children, if you plan on having children. Not gonna get into that conversation, but if you do plan on having children and you have all these weird stories, like my kids, I have my stories, and they're just like my oldest daughter now is like, "Okay, Dad, the, none of those are real," and my youngest is like,
You're
"My
like,
dad's a
ask your
hero."
mom.
So, um, so you're gonna have a lot of fun stories to share. But
Yes, definitely.
for you, you're doing dramatic roles, which you do
Hmm.
fantastically. I mean, I can almost tear up sometimes with the way you come out with your performance.
Thank you.
But at the same time, you're funny. So now I find The Rock to have that similar.
Hmm.
He may not think so, but Dwayne, I've seen him acting, and where there's some roles where you can almost tear up with some of the storyline, but then he does these comedic roles. So what is your formula? What is that a formula you're setting up for yourself, or do you just want to kind of do a little bit of everything? Tell me a little bit about what your thought process with that is.
Well, I enjoy acting, whether it's drama or comedy. There's definitely something in my heart that I have for drama. I've always been drawn to it. I've always loved it. There's just something about being able to connect to that story and be able not only to feel what that person would be feeling at that particular moment, but to also have other people that are watching you be able to feel that as well. A great storyteller is just like having them feel like, wow, I relate to that story, or that reminded me of something, or I felt what they were feeling. I love that. At the same time, with the comedy, it's all about fun. Like growing up, I watched a lot of these sitcoms, and even though I never understood the technicality of it, the feeling that you get from making people laugh is also great. I do have a very quirky and silly side to myself that not a lot of people know. I think it's one of those things where I have it more, it's something more that like my inner circle gets to see a lot, where, like everything that comes out of my mouth are just looking at me like, you're such a dork. Like, where do you come up with these random stuff? And I was like, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I was like, so it's just these quirkiness that I share with my close friends and family. And then when I get to be on set with these, with comedy stuff, I get to show that. I have no problem like doing weird stuff that's gonna make me look silly, or make me look ugly, or make me look weird or quirky. That just, those are things that don't really embarrass me. I sometimes want to do stuff that embarrasses me or other people around me. So when I get to do comedy, it's like I get to share with, I get to share with like my fans and my audience, that silly quirkiness of me that very few people get to see.
That's cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so like you mentioned, you're Cuban Venezuelan. I was wanting to ask you what kind of style of food do you like to cook between those two, but we'll skip that for now.
Okay.
As a Latina, y yo soy también Latino,
Same.
and knowing some Latin artists, and a lot of my interviews, unbeknownst to me, that I've done on the Lounge Network, happen to be Latin musicians and filmmakers, but they're not singing in Spanish, right? Now, I know you do Spanish. I know I've seen you get interviewed in Spanish.
Yeah.
How much of being a Latina is now something that you're pushing in your acting? Because I know you do parts, obviously, Maria and other Latin roles, but is that something you want to kind of maintain, or do you want to kind of break through that and be like, look, I'm just ready to be a lead that has nothing to do with Latinness?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I've never hidden the fact that I'm Hispanic. I love being Hispanic. I love my heritage and everything that comes with it, the good and the bad. So to me, it's more about getting these roles now that don't necessarily have me as being Latin, just have me being as a human being telling my story. Because at the end of the day, I honestly feel like it doesn't matter where you're from, where you grew up, where your ethnicity, your religion, sexual orientation, all of that. We still, as humans, have certain things that we all look for, and it's things like love, feeling secure, being a part of something. So that's what I want to do as an actress. I don't want to just be given these roles that are only for Hispanic, because I can do so much more. My acting can do so much more. And just to say like, oh, well, she can only do Hispanic is like saying that we as a Hispanic race are completely different and have different needs and wants, fears and passions than any other ethnicity. Like, we're all human beings and we all ultimately want the same few things. And so getting the opportunity to tell that story is, to me, the most important thing. I think, Jennifer Lopez has done a great job of sort of breaking out into that. Like, some of the roles you see her do, they don't even give her a Hispanic name. And I think that's so beautiful. I mean, everyone knows that she's Puerto Rican.
Right.
But the fact that they don't use a Hispanic name, at least to me, says a lot, because they're putting her in a place where, hey, this particular character can be anything, but look at the story that she has to tell. Just like, Denzel Washington, it's one of these things where he has these great lead roles, and you're not sitting there thinking, oh, this is a great role because he's African American. This is a great role because he's a great actor, and
Right.
he's bringing this story to life. And I think that's something that's very important, because we need to start seeing more diversity, so that, every race is not pigeonholed to, like, oh, if you're Hispanic, you're gonna be the maid, or you're gonna be the one with a thick accent. I grew up in Miami, so I was never a minority in Miami. And
Right.
growing up over there, everyone around me was, their parents were doctors, lawyers,
Don't worry, I'll bleep that
police
out later.
officers. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So I grew up seeing Hispanics being, having every type of position that you can possibly imagine someone to have, like good and bad. So why can't we portray that in film and television? Like, we don't always have to be the immigrant, or we don't always have to be the ones, with a drug problem or cleaning houses. Like, we can be presidents and lawyers and all that good stuff.
Agreed. Now, you brought up some cool things. So, one, Jennifer Lopez, who obviously is in a lot of dramatic scenes now, her own TV shows that she's helping co-produce, and that seriousness of her acting and the connection with family and that type of stuff, both with her. My mind is going blank as to the name of the show, but I'm a big fan of it.
Something blue,
Yes.
I want to say.
I
Yeah.
believe it's on NBC.
I-
But
Yeah.
you are in another film, and I think it's coming out. I'm not sure if it's out yet, called Misguided Behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to
Yeah,
show the
that's gonna be
trailer,
coming out
and then you can tell us
yeah.
a little bit about that, if that's cool.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. So here is Misguided Behavior.
Agree. Let's enroll him into public school in hopes that he might become more social.
So, having your face smashed in is being more social?
Callie Winbrook, the prettiest girl in our whole school, invited me to her mom's 10th festival. Lance showed up.
What does he want with you?
For me to stay away from her.
Did you see the shooter? Are you a student?
Yes, I'm a student. I was right by the shooter when he pulled the gun.
Is he a student?
Yeah.
Let's enter the mind of the victim. He's the quiet one. Look, you probably missed him. Keep to himself, he humble, driven, and so focused. But the fear got him feeling things that's so hopeless. Getting harassed and embarrassed, now he feeling low. Trouble everywhere he turned, don't know where to go. Bullies hitting him, throwing bottles of trash at him. Can't confide in nobody, cause they all laugh at him. Haven't spoke to his parents, said they won't understand this.
The third time this week I caught you stirring up trouble with the students.
It's a gun.
Someone brought a gun to the school this morning.
So basically, you gotta stay away from me.
Why would I do that?
Police are calling this an active shooter situation as authorities search for a suspect. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you more information as it becomes available.
We're out here risking our lives every day, and then you gotta go home and act like nothing happened.
I guess heroes don't exist in real life.
And you gotta pray to God that you find your gun.
I got a 5-minute ETA. We got medical units on the way. Come on, pick up.
I messed up today.
You did what any good cop would do. You saved a life. You saved a kid's life. Someone's got to do something about this, Kev.
Open the door. 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 The door.
Okay, so to me, that's a really powerful, not only trailer, but it's just a very serious overall tone, especially in our world of today. So tell me a little bit about this movie.
So the movie Misguided Behavior, it deals with not only school bullying, but also gun violence in the school. And it was a very strong script because of everything that's been going on with our society of kids feeling marginalized, especially now with social media. It's become more and more common to see kids be victims of bullying and be the ones that bully because they can hide behind the mask that is the internet and the computer and the apps. So this movie brings a light to that, and I think one of the beautiful things that they did was make sure that parents become aware and do a better job of asking questions. There's a lot of stories in there where you see kids commit suicide because of the bullying, because of the shaming that comes with it. And a lot of times, like they mentioned in the film, it could have been avoided or it could have been prevented had there been more communication or better communication, because these kids felt so ashamed of the stuff that was going on, but no one even bothered to see how they were being bullied online. So it's definitely a very touching subject, but it's definitely a subject that needs to be talked about.
Now, are you involved in any of those type of things? And not in bullying, of course, but just tell me if you're involved with any of these organizations, for example, that might be like anti-bullying or anything.
I haven't started working with one particular organization as far as the bullying goes. I've done more work with organizations that deal with women who've been in the sex trafficking, just helping them find a way out of that industry and find healing, and different organizations with animals. With schools, though, even though we talked a little bit about bullying, I have gone out to schools, especially schools that have they're considered high-risk children in their kids who've been caught fighting or bringing something into school. They've gotten suspended from their regular school, and they go to these schools to spend anywhere from 3 months to a whole school year until they get them back on track to be able to go back to their regular school. And I've gone in and talked to them. We've talked about the bullying, but more so than not, we've talked, at least on my end, talked to them about finding value in themselves. I feel like a lot of them, their story was like, well, I'm already in here, so what's the point? Or where I'm growing up is not a safe place, so why? I'm never going to leave out of this community, so why even try? So it was more talking about finding their self-value and finding ways to use this fear, this anger that they had, rather than taking it out on other kids, but realizing that like these other kids are going through the same things that you're going through one way or another. They're having their own insecurities, and rather than attacking each other, if we can work together, we'll be able to do more as far as healing and then also getting further in life.
Awesome. Okay, now I'm gonna last thing. I've already had you close to an hour, and I so much appreciate your time. You have, in my opinion, have kind of mastered the art of using social media to promote yourself. Now, I follow you on Instagram and obviously Facebook. Sometimes I'm not a big Twitter person, but it's a Twitter. So tell me a little bit about if there's a strategy behind it, what your thoughts are, or do you have a team behind it? I know right now you're with a PR agency, so that's fantastic. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, social media was one of those things where I wasn't a fan of at the beginning because I didn't understand the ability that it gave me to connect with people that want to see my journey and support my journey because they've either just met me now through like a film that I just did or like yourself who met me right when I was starting off. So once I saw the possibilities of it, where it wasn't just about me posting random pictures, but me posting things about myself so that people could get to know me better, but also get to know my work more. And I think that was the pivotal point once I realized, hey, this isn't a burden, but it's a way for me to stay connected with those that I love and love me and support me and want to see me do better. So that was the switch. And after that, it's just become a lot easier. Like I understand more of having contact. That's one of the things I always try to respond to all the comments that I get on my Instagram, for example. Anyone that posts any comments on my on the post or videos that I put up, I usually try to make it a point to respond to them because, these are people that are taking time off of their busy schedule to interact with me and share with me their thoughts about what I'm putting up there. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful to the people who do follow me on social media. Instagram, I would say I'm on there more often. And then Facebook, I have Twitter. It's just one of those things where, like you said, like I'm more of an Instagram, Facebook person.
Yeah.
But I definitely try to make sure that I'm available as much as I can to the people who are so supportive of me, because where would, as actors, if we're not performing for someone and changing lives, motivating people to follow their dreams, then we might as well be in our bedrooms acting for ourselves. So I'm definitely so appreciative of the social media and like the love that I receive. That's been like something very, very rewarding for me. It's the support I get, like when I post something, especially like my work, and people get to see it and they're like, oh wow, I didn't know you had done this. It always feels great because it lets me know, okay, these are my audience and they're liking my work. Now what I need to do is get better and keep pushing and keep pushing.
And so do you find that there's a strategy behind the way you're handling your social media? Like, for example, what's the best time of day? Or I know sometimes you put inspiring quotes with your photographs, stuff like that.
Yeah. So that for me was something very personal to me. I love inspirational quotes. I love when I read them and they just trigger something where I'm just like, oh wow, that spoke to me. And so I remember when I first started posting, it was always very hard for me to think about what to write on the quote, because a lot of times like the picture said what it was, and it just kind of seemed mundane to write what was on the picture. And I've always, like I said, read a lot of positive quotes, but I also like sharing them to my friends. And I just it kind of merged into this thing of like, well, if there's something where the picture speaks for itself, then I should write motivational quotes that have some relationship to the picture, not necessarily about the picture, but just have something so that people can see the picture, but then get something inspirational from it, so that it's not just me, hey, here, look at my stuff, but I want to be able to give something back to those who come to my page and take the time to look at my pictures or my videos. I want to give something back to them and give them something to take back. And that's something that's been really rewarding. Like, those are usually like a lot of the comments that I get was, wow, thank you for this quote. It was amazing. It spoke to me. It helped me. And so it makes me feel great, because I know that now this person is feeling a little bit better because I took, the extra time to look for quotes and find the right one for that picture.
Okay, last thing.
Yes.
You have a niece, a nephew, a young family friend. What would be your biggest words of follow your passion?
Well, for them and for anyone, it's I strongly believe like we were all put on this earth to fulfill something, and only we know what it is, because it's something that we keep thinking about, and whether we're scared of doing it or not, it always comes back to us. So I think my biggest thing would be you need to share that gift with the world. And I read somewhere where it talked about that. It talked about how people don't follow their dreams or don't pursue their dreams because of fear of failure, or fear that they will get to where they want to get to, and then like, how do I do this? And they don't know, by shutting that light on their dream, who else they are leaving behind and not motivating. And I look at it even through my own life, where I've had a lot of people come up to me and ask me questions like, how do I get started? Where do I get started? And I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have anyone guide me through it. It was literally like just one person. I met one person, that person introduced me to the next one. But I never had anyone where I can look up to and say, oh, wow, this is how they did it. Let me ask them. So if maybe there was someone growing up that I could have looked up to and would have been doing what I did, but maybe they didn't follow their dreams. So it made it a little bit harder for me because it took me longer to get to where I was. So I think if everyone looks into themselves and says, hey, I have a gift and there's something in me that I was created for, and I might not change the world, but I might change a person's life that will change the world. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would say. Like, you need to let that gift that you have shine and be shown in the world, because it's not going to do anything. A light under a casing or something is not going to shine. So you need to lift that up so that light can shine.
Awesome. Doris, I'm not going to take any more of your time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in there. Mostly everything that people are saying are just well said. They seem to be loving a lot of things that you're talking about and saying, particularly our Latin viewers. And somebody just said, "Amen, Doris." So I think they're loving you. I'm hoping that we get a chance to follow your career more. I wish you the best. I can't wait to see you, like, at least at some award ceremony.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Amen.
And guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Doris, and your PR company for setting this up. Do you want to give some your PR company their name?
Yeah, my PR companies is Espada PR, and is Jasmine Espada and Camila Cortez, and they're absolutely amazing. They're the best thing that's come into my career,
awesome.
Because they're great. I mean, you got to talk to them, so
yeah. So I would love to work with them more. Maybe cover some of their other artists that they might be covering. I'm gonna let you go because I know I've been holding you for over an hour because we had our little tech issues with the audio that you're having. And thank them for me for figuring it out and setting it up.
Will do.
Thank you, all viewers. I'm just going to quickly glance to see if there's anybody who has any questions. Nope, I think you probably covered everything, so that's great.
Awesome.
And thank you. All I can say is thank you. So,
no, thank
take care,
you.
guys.
Thank you. Had a great time.
I just want to have us wave goodbye to everybody as we have our little end credits. So have a great night. Thank you for watching us live, everybody. Take care. Thank you, BubblrMedia. And this is the Lounge Network, the Indie Lounge Show.